As promised in the last video, now I'm going to show you the shortcut on how do we bring 4 additional layers that were all exported out of GIS from the same page layout. How do we bring them in and reformat them in when they don't fit the size of the base map? Alright, so here's how this works. I'm going to take the other 3 layers and I'm going to bring them in and drop them in on top of my hydrology layer. Right, and some of this is just to confirm that my data actually overlays with one another. And so again, going to the impaired waters layer, I'm going to go Control A for select all. Control C is copy. Come back over to my hydrology layer and paste it in. I'm going to do the same thing for the other layers real quick while I'm here, just to show you. Oops. Drop all of those in. Control A, Control C, Control, get on the right layer, Control V. Now you see I've got 4 layers that are in here. And so I've got my wells layer, and I've got my outstanding waterways layer, and I've got my impaired waterways layer. And so I'm going to go ahead and label all of these over here in the layer menu. I'm going to make sure I double click on this background layer because I want to make it active. And you see that turns it into layer 0. But if I go ahead and show you what that is, that's just my hydrology layer. And I want to go ahead and take those labels with me as I go. So the quick way to do this, I mean, you can turn them all back on, but actually we're going to want them all off here in just a second, is that if I go ahead and select on the bottom layer, and then I hold the Shift key and select on the top layer, you'll see I've now highlighted all 4 layers. If I then go in and link, I can tell it to link layers, and where that's hiding is here at the top right corner of my layer menu. And then I come down, and again, they're all linked. And what linked means is that they now all come together. And so if I grab my move tool, they can all move around together. Great part of this means is that now I can turn off all of these other layers, the other 3 layers. Just have this one. Well, how do I get them onto this, into the base map? Well, much like Internet Explorer, I can pull the window down. Again, go to my move tool and drag them in. Alright, and so for right now that means I can go ahead and move that out of the way. So here on my base map I've now got this big layer and all these other ones. Well, which one's going to be the easiest one to line up? Well, outstanding layers has the state outline on it, and so I'm going to go ahead and turn all of the other ones off. Click on my outstanding one. Tell it that I want to go to multiply, and multiply allows you to see through all the white space on a layer. So as I mentioned kind of in the last video, if I go to a tool called Free Transform. Free Transform, if I hold the Shift key and move from the corners, allows me to maintain the aspect, so that I don't mess up the drawing. Let me just show you what that looks like if I don't, right? Oops. Now try and line all of that up. So what I want to do, now that I can see through this one layer, is that I want to go ahead and line them up one on top of the other. And so I'm going to do that. Just here by eyeball, kind of try and get it right. Still a little bit big. Once you're starting to get close though, you can start to use the arrow keys, and this is called the nudge, and allows you to kind of move things around in small increments. And so you see that as I keep making small adjustments, eventually I get to a point where it looks like that's pretty good. Now all of those layers that I brought in now should be lined up exactly on top of that one. But we've got a problem, right? And so that problem is that we've got all this extra white space here. Well, so how do I start to drag them in, right? Well, what I really want to do is I want my hydrology layer, but I want my hydrology layer to be underneath all this other information. Well, how do I make that work? Well, one way, just like I did, was drag them around in the layer menu. And then you can go ahead and hit multiply on the context layer, and suddenly you see that all the hydrology is lined up where we want it to be. In the next video I'll show you how to manipulate these layers and make some additions to make the rest of it all come together.